Can you improve your pronunciation on your own?
Yes, it's not like learning grammar. You are training new muscles.
Can you imagine Cristiano Ronaldo just practicing the skill and never doing it on game day?
Would you go to the gym for 1 hour and expect to have a six-pack? All of these things helped. But even then, people are like, oh, but I don't like the sound of my voice.
You have to get used to it.
I don't recommend that you sit and do this in front of people.
Hi, if you've joined this video, it means you're working out ways to improve your pronunciation. And that's okay, because we are here today with some solutions for you. I have Emma from Pronunciation Emma as a guest with me today, and we go over 4 tips on how you can improve.
1.
Many students are looking to improve their pronunciation. Do you think it's possible to improve it on your own?
Yes. Simple answer, yes. I know because I am a product of that myself. I've learned different languages, not to any crazy, impressive, fluent level. I think the language that I speak the most fluently, besides English, of course, is Spanish. And that's because I live in Spain, my boyfriend's Spanish, and I need Spanish. I need to speak it. But the way that I learned my pronunciation is just by shadowing. That's literally it. I used to just listen to Spanish people around me speaking English all the time, classmates and teachers, friends, whoever. And I started to mimic, not in front of them, but I just started to mimic how they talked. So, for example, they would say something like, hello. And I would think, hello. They're not saying hello, it's hello. So I would start practicing that h sound. And at first, I remember I used to get like a big ball of spit in my mouth to try and get that. Yeah, and now I can do it, you know. And I never had lessons how to learn. I just taught myself how to do it by copying. And I remember it took me months. Like I still remember it was like 3 or 4 months learning how to do that to a like not conversational level, but doing it without getting that ball of spit in my mouth. And then I realized like very subtle things. So for example, friends would ask me like, what do you want to do? And I would be like, to do. They're not saying to do, they're saying to do. So they're moving their tongue, so the t and da is more dental. So that means that in Spanish it must be more dental. So I started to pick up on these little things all the time, things like vowels, you know. I realized like, wait, Spanish only has 5 vowels. All of these things helped. I don't recommend that you sit and do this in front of people because they might think that you're mocking them. And I think this is genuinely what this person thought I was trying to say, was like mock accents. But it's not the case. It's literally just how are they speaking? Because how they're speaking, they're going to be using their sound repertoire, let's say, from their native language to speak English. So you can use that to your advantage and you can copy that.
I think it's a good way to differentiate between what you are doing in English and what a Spanish speaker is doing in English. And then you can, like you said, notice very small differences.
2.
I always tell people as well that like practicing pronunciation, you are training new muscles that you wouldn't normally
100%.
use in your first language or languages. And a lot of people compare learning pronunciation to learning grammar. So learning grammar, like I can literally teach you a grammatical structure and you can then just, so long as it's regular, you can just apply that and start using it.
Yeah.
But when it comes to pronunciation, you're literally training muscles.
Yeah.
And I always have to tell people, would you go to the gym for 1 hour and expect to have a six-pack? No. So why would you train for 1 hour and expect to get a sound perfect? Like, it's not going to work. It's not like learning grammar. Just realize it takes longer.
With pronunciation, it's interesting. Many people just think, you know, do the technique only, just like research online to find the exact technique of where the tongue should be or the mouth should be or how the air flows. But it's not just that, you know, there's so much more that people need to think about, because an isolated sound in comparison to full speech are 2 completely different situations, you know. Yeah. So the gym thing, I use that a lot as well, which I love that one. Or I say, can you imagine Cristiano Ronaldo just practicing the skill and never doing it on game day? You know, it doesn't happen like that. So you have to be able to use it in pressure situations. And it's not like one day it just suddenly clicks. It's a gradual consistency building over time. And there'll always be words that you don't say regularly where that sound just doesn't click because of that usage. It's a repetitive process, unfortunately. For
Yes.
my students who are not in lesson, I almost say, look, try and practice this like you would have medicine 3 times a day with your food. Like, try and do something. It doesn't have to be like an hour.
Yeah.
You just spend like 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there on the sound that you're really struggling on. And then the more times you do it at regular intervals, the
Yeah.
more likely it will begin to change in alongside working with sentences and paragraphs and within your speech. It's interesting.
Consistency is key.
3,
When it comes to pronunciation, there's no way you could get me to sit down for an hour and do it, unless I'm with a teacher and they're correcting me, they're giving me feedback. So that's one benefit to having lessons with me, with any teacher, is having that feedback. When it comes to giving feedback to yourself, one thing you can do is record yourself. But even then, people are like, oh, but I don't like the sound of my voice, blah, blah, blah. So
Yeah,
it's like there's
have to
always
get
something.
used to it. Have to get used to it. If you're going to improve your pronunciation, you're going to be listening to us. You want to see the
Yeah.
like, that's crazy thinking.
Yes.
I understand it, because obviously we've been through that process of putting ourselves online, so on social media, and the process
Yeah.
of watching myself in the first video was, I spent 2 weeks on my first 30-second video or something, just
Yeah.
because I know I got to do this again, or listening to my voice. Oh dear. But then
Yep.
you have to get used to it for pronunciation, because
Yeah.
just like when you learn grammar the first time and then you want to do a test to see how you've improved, you want to see
Yeah.
that progress. And if you don't listen to yourself, there's no way of seeing the progress, and then you become less motivated. And you have to do it, in my opinion. It's very important.
Very. Yeah, it's one thing I do on my pronunciation course. Don't worry, I'm not doing a sneaky plug here for people
No,
listening.
please,
But
crack on. Sneaky plugs are allowed, for sure.
Sneaky plug. But one thing, that I always push my students to on my course, and in private lessons as well, is start a SoundCloud account. You can upload your recordings on there for free. So what I do with my students is I get them to record themselves, upload it to SoundCloud, send me the link, and then I give them the very specific feedback at specific points. It's really
Sure.
good for that. But the best thing about it is that you have this really nice portfolio of your progress. So students can go back to their first recording after a few months. Now, I recommend they do after a few months, because after a few weeks, you're not going to notice a huge difference. But after a few months, you will start to notice things. You'll go back and you're like, I used to really confuse that vowel, and now I've got it. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm really good at this sound now. Or wow, I'm connecting here, which I didn't do before. And as humans, we're always looking like, what do I need to improve? What's next? What's next? What's next? Instead
Yes.
of thinking, how far have I come? How have I improved? What have I learned? What's new for me? What was new for me that I'm confident with now? And having this portfolio to go back and reflect on is so useful for like your mental health as well. Like knowing that you're actually improving. Because trust me, you won't notice you're improving until you listen back.
4,
Another way as well, which is one I don't publicly recommend, but I'll recommend it here just for the laughs, is to drink some alcohol. So whenever
No, that's well recommended on this podcast.
But honestly, like I remember when I was young, I used to like play with making sounds, and I remember my dad, when I was very young, taught me how to do like this. So I could do that from a young age, but I could never seem to do it in words. So in Spanish, if I want to say like dog, it's perro, right? With this really strong. Or if I want to say red, rojo. So trying to do that r and h at the same time is really hard, especially when I'm talking. I would have to like stop. I remember I would go out with friends and we would have some, a couple of beers, maybe a few more. And it relaxes your muscles. Like I don't recommend that people go out and buy a bottle of vodka and do this, but next time you're out with friends and stuff, you will find that everything loosens a little bit, like your muscles loosen. And also your fear of making mistakes and sounding stupid, you kind of lose that a little bit when you drink alcohol. That's why people do stupid stuff when they're drunk, right? Having that just helps. Like if you have a glass of wine at night when you're relaxing, why not just for a few minutes, like practice a few sounds, you know, while you're drinking your wine. I'm not recommending people go binge drinking, but that's something that helps me.
If you are keen on improving your pronunciation, this next video is the one for you.